Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a very special live stream. It's me, Matthew, of course, and I'm joined today by the fantastic Brett White. We're going to be doing a very special chat about WandaVision, sitcom history, Marvel stuff, going way too deep down the rabbit hole on all your favorite things. Brett is a TV critic at The Decider, has written some amazing recaps and very scholastic work on WandaVision and X-Men and all this stuff, and old sitcoms. Oh my goodness. Host of the podcast Must Have Seen TV. Also just an encyclopedia of knowledge when it comes to classic television and superheroes. So this show could not have been designed for anyone more than it is designed for you. Brett, thanks so much for popping by and doing the live stream with me.
Thank you for having me on, and I love talking about this show, and it's where I've lived for the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I got screeners a little bit early, so I've been stuck in this world a little bit longer. So,
I am very envious. It's just where I want to live.
Now there's no more screeners, so I am plumb up the creek river or whatever you want to say.
Welcome to the Creek River with the rest of us. We've got some friends joining us in the chat. Mr. Bitter Old Queen, glad to see you joining us. Blue Button Flies here. SimSilica, hello. Bent Burritos is joining us. My favorite podcast with my favorite YouTube channel talking about my TV's latest wild idea. I'm thriving today. I hope everyone's having a good day so far. Bent, we are so happy to have you with us. Rezel is here, came to say hi. Me and my D&D group are playing World of Warcraft right now. Rezel, I hope you're having a fabulous raid. Lorenzo, Timothy Matthews, Tomer Levy, all our friends are here to say hello. I'm so pleased to have you all. So we're going to be talking about WandaVision. There will be some spoilers. We're going to try to keep it, I think, spoilers for episode 1 and 2 at the start, and then we'll probably talk a little bit about episode 3 kind of after the middle of the live stream, because I know not everyone's had a chance to watch the what is it now in color, broadcasting now in color?
Yeah, now in color.
Episode 3 of WandaVision. So let's just start, Brett, by asking, and this is a question for everybody in the chat, and also thank you, Kirk, for the tip. I really appreciate that. Look at that unicorn. Kirk has sent us a rainbow unicorn. Thank you so much. So first question, is WandaVision a show about old TV that just happens to have superheroes, or is it a superhero show about old TV, or is it both, or is it neither?
Well, I think WandaVision is going to be all of the above eventually. What I think now is that it is. So I love superheroes. Obviously, the other half of my office is all X-Men and my wall of 5,000 comic books. So like this is my jam. But when I was watching these screeners and watching the first 3 episodes and hearing the conversation come back, so many other people were very into like the lore and like, what do you think? Do you think this means that Vision is? And I'm like, oh my God, they taped this in front of a live studio audience. They used the same kind of lighting as they used on the Dick Van. Like I was getting my life from like tiny shit, like when they go into color in episode 2 and the palette that they decided to use looks exactly like if you watch seasons 1 and 2 of Bewitched, and they've gone back and colorized them. Like Vision, like it's this flat, matte, very vibrant color. And I was like, when they did that, I was like, the attention to detail, is what So I think at first, it is much more of a show about the history of sitcoms. Mm-hmm. It is a legitimately funny, well-made sitcom that is about how the medium has progressed and how America's relationship with this medium has itself changed over the decades. And then eventually we're going to get to fighting.
Yeah, people flying around in underwear. Yeah, exactly. My poor partner James had to put up with me when the latest episode aired. I was like, wait, I'm sorry, we have to pause. We're watching it last night. We have to pause so I could just look at the film grain. I'm so sorry, but I need to look at the film grain of this television show for a while. It's amazing.
What I love the most is how the writing. Like, I really, 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 really want to talk to Jack Schaefer, who's the head writer of the show, because they really, really nailed the granular intricacies of how the scripts were written back then. Because, like, the first episode is character-driven comedy, actual, like, punchlines, but they feel like natural dialogue, and, like, it is laugh-out-loud funny. Episode 2 is more like bigger scope, more antics, not so much like zingers and one-liners because they're not having to feed off a live audience. And then episode 3 isn't funny because it's the Brady Bunch.
Right. We're going to talk about that because I wanted to bring up that question. Are those old TV shows actually maybe not good? But like, I love them, of course. But yeah, no, it's true. That's the style of the writing and the acting and like the style of everything. But they've captured it so well.
What Elizabeth Olsen is doing in every episode, and again, it's because like I've watched them all so many times for work, but like, well, both of them. So like in episode 1, the way that Elizabeth Olsen is playing, like frantic and frazzled, is so Mary Tyler Moore's Laura Petrie.
Yes.
And then there's even a moment when Vision is at work and he leans on his desk and sits like this, and it was my like 4th time watching. I was like, "That's a Dick Van Dyke move."
Yeah, the biting of the fingernails. Yeah,
I literally like found a still of him in his office doing that, and I'm like, "That is deep." And then watching episode 2, Elizabeth Olsen has that kind of Samantha Stevens swagger. Like Sam is like, I mean, her catchphrase is "well," like. Yes. Which is a catchphrase that connotates like I get in over my head and have to like explain it a lot. And and then there's a moment in episode 3 where that was very Florence Henderson. I can't remember what the moment was, but I was like, yeah, it's so interesting that like she's playing Wanda Maximoff, but filtered through sitcoms and then other actresses' performances. Yeah, it's the feat. It's
just incredible. Like what great chemistry they have too. And hello to Rex is joining us, Hank, Rainbow Black, and Zonatan. Hello. Good to see you. Xavier and Nini. Oh, Jesse is here. Hello, Jesse Lovelace. Good to see you too. Xavier says, WandaVision is what would happen if I had reality warping powers. I want to live in Will and Grace. I mean, who would not want to live in New York in a 3,000 square foot apartment?
If I could live in any show, it would be Cheers. Like that's my...
That, that's what's so, it's interesting you bring up Cheers because I am appreciating how the show is so driven by, there's that sort of dichotomy, the binary of sitcoms are about work families or home families. Not, as a, 100% rule, but still. And the show is so much like capturing the sitcom, or the biological family, family families.
Yeah, which are generally not my favorite shows. Like I did the press conference for WandaVision. I guess it was like the weekend before it released. Nothing's open. We're all trapped inside.
Right.
And they specifically brought up like, well, there's this grand tableau. Like there's just so many sitcoms to choose from. It was very easy early on to just be like, okay, family sitcom, it whittles it down. Like that means we could. And when you're going through the metaphor of what would Wanda Maximoff watch, she wants family. Her parents died when she was 10. She watched her brother get killed by Ultron, maybe because Fox had the rights to the character. Like, they didn't want to deal with that red tape for much longer. Well, no, I guess they don't, because they've kept using Wanda Maximoff. I don't know. You know what?
They had to pick one. Yeah.
Honestly, maybe. We'll find out. But it is interesting that it makes sense that that's what she would choose. Is that, and also she just lost Vision, because that's the other major mystery of the show is Vision, our boy here is straight up dead. Like he is a gray, lifeless husk in the forest of Wakanda, probably in a bush now, like all overgrown.
Gosh, oh my God. That's like, I got a pang when you said that, just like imagining the ruins of Vision, like out there in the wilds.
Well, that's what I wonder, like it's one of those like, it's like a Tales of the Cantina kind of thing of like, there should be a short story published about like what they do with like, what do the surviving Wakandans, do they discover him? Do they give him a hero's burial? Do they leave him there? Do they make him a memorial? I mean, he's made of vibranium. Do they like melt him down and turn him into stuff? Like,
that's a good question. Yikes. Oh my goodness.
It's getting dark.
Precious Vision. Ben Burrito says, the show's perfect. I get to gush about old sitcoms and my friends get to gush about superheroes. I love, it's such a good overlap. It blends them so well. Kirk says, I never watched any of these old sitcoms, so I don't get any of the things, and yet I love it. The first one was my favorite.
Good.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's something that like I really noticed about the show, is that it's just a good one of what it is, every episode.
Well, and this is what I don't... So, like, any like haters I've seen who have been like, this is bad writing, or like, where's my secret agents and explosions and flippy fights? Like, why are you complaining about
right
the MCU giving us something that is this bold and weird? And then also, I think that the first episode is the best multicam sitcom episode that I've seen in 15 years.
Yeah,
probably. I think, like, I'm a Connors apologist, or I don't know if people actually. I think that Connors is good. I mean, you put Laurie Metcalf and John Goodman in a show, it's going to be fine. But most of the multicam sitcoms now are that, like, big, broad, we're mugging to the camera and selling all the, like...
Yes.
Yeah. And to see Paul Bettany, like, really just disappear into this role and, like, get his Dick Van Dyke on, and it was so natural. It was... I really hope that WandaVision inspires people to at least go back and watch, like, the Dick Van Dyke Show and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Which episode 3 also has sprinklings of the Mary Tyler Moore Show in it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think I can see that. I was thinking when you mentioned, like, there's a little bit of Florence Henderson to it. I think one of the things that I was thinking of was there was a moment, and I can't remember when this happens, but when she kind of has like a "oh you" kind of like mug, and that's what felt like Partridge Family. Gosh, well, that too, I
Brady
guess.
Bunch.
Yeah, it felt like Brady Bunch.
Well, the theme song of episode 3
oh my God.
feels very, like, I have "Come On Get Happy" stuck in my head just thinking about it.
There's that, like, harpsichordy thing in the end credits. There's like the diddly diddly diddly, and I'm like, oh well, okay, come on.
I tell you, when the opening credits for episode 2 happened, and it was the animated, like, Bewitched genie style with the same kind of, like, mod music, I was just like, I'm in heaven. Like, I've died. This is everything. But then shit, like, I just get so excited. All the comic book Easter eggs that are in those opening credits, like all of the signage in the grocery store is like Wonder Oats, Bova milk, and Kitty.
Auntie A's, yeah.
And it's just like they just referenced fucking Wonder Man, Bova, Wanda's cow lady, like caretaker, and then Agatha Harkness.
Yeah,
it's really cool. I mean, like, I really just like that they've recognized that Scarlet Witch and Vision are these, like, nexuses of insane Marvel continuity. Like, they have fingers in everything, and they're just pulling on all of it, and it's super cool.
Xavier says, I wonder if they'll do Friends in a few episodes when they hit the 90s.
That is what I am wondering, because in all the interviews, like, Matt Shakman, the director, and Jack, the writer, have said, like, we go, like, all the way up to the present. So theoretically, we're going to see 90s and 00s and maybe even the teens, but none of that footage is in any of the trailers.
Right.
There is a couple. So we've seen the Family Ties 80s. That we've seen that a bunch in the trailers, and then there's another thing that looks a little bit like a later 80s, like Roseanne kind of vibe.
I was kind of getting Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah, there's a kind of vibe like that. So maybe, but then. It also speaks to the fact that the last 20 years of TV comedies don't have an aesthetic. Yeah. It's just single cam, mockumentary style, they don't look different.
Right. It's certainly not like when you look at Bewitched and you're like, well, the 60s versus, the 70s. I mean, even Bewitched, I think, is a great example because you can feel like mid 60s going into early 70s on that show.
Yeah, you can watch the change.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, like, that's indicative of how, like, I don't know, the 20th century's the 21st century's boring. I mean,
sorry, 20th century.
It is, like, I mean, I don't know. The last 20 years is just this kind of, like, elongated, everything is kind of always happening. I mean, like, look, like, this is how I dress normally. Yeah. Like, so what if, like, everything is happening all the time now.
Yeah. We've got a little bit. I actually remember in, gosh, this must have been like 2005 or 2006. It was like the mid-aughts, if we're calling them that. I was reading this, like, review of something, I don't remember what, in the Bay Area Reporter when I lived in San Francisco, and it was about style and it might have been for like Fashion Week or something. It's just like this person who was furious that there was no aesthetic to the new millennium. He was like, why did we stop? Why did we stop in the 90s? Why can't we get something going? Why can't we get it together? And what have we got? We've got like weird hair clips in the color orange. That's all we've got for the new millennium so far.
Well, and it's still, I don't know, I always like look at season 7 of Buffy. You know, like that is where it looks like, it's like, I guess people are wearing orange pleather jackets. I guess that's happening.
Yeah,
so like, I mean, I think you can watch episodes of The Office. And so I think that there are parts of WandaVision that are maybe parodying like Modern Family. Maybe.
Okay.
But like,
sure.
Basically anything that takes place in the modern era, like in IRL 2023 or whatever, because the in-game time jump.
Right.
that could be Modern Family, but like there's no visual signifiers.
Sure.
Other than just like looking at the camera.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess that's the aesthetic.
That is it. It's just people sitting on a couch and looking at a camera or doing like the.
Yes. Yeah. The take.
Yeah.
Jean Grey was here, says, I still think that how they killed Pietro was super dumb. If Civil War would have been better if Pietro was there and the twins were on different sides. Yes. Okay. I think you have a take on this.
Well, like, so in preparing for WandaVision, I've been going back and just like trying to read up because like I'm an X-Men person. So like I've never read the Tommy, Billy, them in the suburbs era. So I've been reading all that. And in reading all that, seeing how just big of a deal Quicksilver is in the larger Marvel landscape. And he's always been a big deal to me because growing up an X-Men fan, he was X Factor's resident asshole. And so like, I have always liked Quicksilver. And then reading all these comics, like he is such a major part of Wanda's character, her journey, all the stories. And the fact they killed him off right away is like, they were in a way like robbing themselves of a specific vibe that I do not think no one currently in the MCU, which I love, is serving like Pietro's level of dickishness. Yeah. I mean, he's basically like if Iron Man and Doctor Strange got together and then like quadrupled.
Right. Like smugness. A great comment from Jesse, and I definitely want to talk about this. I read somewhere that in the scene in episode 1 where Wanda breaks character while the boss is choking, it switches from 3 camera to single camera. That, oh my gosh, so brilliantly done. Yeah,
because it crosses the fourth wall in that moment, and it's also using a lot more tighter close-ups. Well, what they said because I got to interview Matt Shackman, the director, because I was like, I have very specific questions. He's the man that made the decision. And he said that in addition to parodying sitcoms of each generation, for the parts, like how the outside world encroaches, they look to era-specific horror tropes. And so that is why it switches to a very Twilight Zone. Like, you're getting tighter close-up, you're getting, it's a lot more claustrophobic feeling.
The shadows on the faces.
Yeah, and so, but I don't know. So I don't really know what the 60s, I'm not really a horror person, but like the 70s, I realized when I was writing my recap, they dressed Paul Bettany way more like Donald Sutherland in like Don't Look Now and
Body Snatchers?
Invasions of Body Snatchers than Mike Brady. Like Mike Brady never dressed like that. And the way episode 3 ends, I mean, no spoilers, but like the tone and the vibe and stuff feels very, very, very like Italian adult sexy thriller horror.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I hit that, I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I wonder if we're going to see like Family Ties, like slasher.
That's such an interesting, because I was talking to James about this yesterday, that we had some like real strong paranoia when real world intrudes, or like when the vibe changes in the first 2 episodes. And it's like, paranoia wasn't quite so much a thing in the 70s. You know, but you know, of course, horror still existed. I wasn't thinking horror. I was just thinking about like paranoia and like the X-Files feel.
Yeah.
But yes, that like, I'm not sure how to describe it. I think Italian horror of like something's amiss.
it feels very Body Snatchers.
Mm-hmm.
Like the scene where Vision is talking to Agnes and Herb, and they like want to tell him something, but they like can't tell him something, and he's like, "What's?" Or just the shot of him like.
Yes, yeah, that like strange, yeah.
Yeah, so like it feels very off on that. I don't really know a lot what 60s could be, but like,
well,
that,
I mean,
the voice coming through the radio, and I mean, is that Hitchcocky, honestly, like the beekeeper and all that?
That, I mean, perhaps, you know, I was thinking of, that's, I can't believe I forgot the name of the film. It's the movie that all zombie movies are based on.
Oh, Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead, yeah.
Yeah.
They're coming to get you. I mean, it certainly has that,
Yeah.
they're coming for us, and the danger is us.
Yeah, yeah. I also really like that the only color we see in episodes 1 and 2 is red.
Yeah.
For Scarlet. Like, that's super cool.
It's such a, oh gosh, it's such a great touch. Mr. T suggests we might do All in the Family into Roseanne, Home Improvement, Friends, How I Met Your Mother. Kirk would like to see Married with Children. I think that is a distinct possibility. Possibly Modern Family. Ben Burrito.
Full House.
Yeah. Ooh, full
House. Yeah. Because Elizabeth Olsen is on the show.
Right.
Why would you not
do Full House? What a weird. It's so many like Inception Matryoshka dolls of like media within text within media.
Well, and it's also the fact that like when she says, like, you know, I was a twin. It's like, well, IRL, she's the little sister of the two most famous sitcom twins to ever live. Yes. And it's like, it's so perfect.
Travis wants to see a 2000s teen soap opera like The OC with Wanda and Vision's parents to a teen kid. That's a great idea.
Well, I do wonder if they are going to start pulling from other, like, how sitcom-y it's going to go. Like, if it's going to stick to... Because honestly, in like the tree rings of TV history, what is left over from the 50s to the 80s are the sitcoms. Like, and I think like Nick at Night didn't rerun the dramas. So like we don't, like they rerun White Shadow, I remember as a kid, and I was like, I don't want to watch this basketball drama. Like, where's F Troop, please?
Right. Yeah, the dramas that like do not age quite, like watching Family, for example, from the 70s, a great show, but still it just doesn't, it's not as digestible.
And so I wonder, like, when you get to the 90s, when, like, that, like, ER, X-Files, when, like, the blockbuster, drama happens, that the ones that have actually withstood the test of time, like, are they going to start pulling from those? Because I honestly, like, would be interested to see if, you know, the season finale is, like, a Breaking Bad or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like once you get to the actual MCU and can do action and stuff, are they going to pull from... action, like Avatar:
action
The Last
television.
Airbender, you know,
right? Yeah, like
action scenes,
something very unexpected. Ben Burrito says Family Tie slasher would be rad. Hank asks, is the house set changing with each episode? Yeah, but like the layout is similar. I think there's elements.
Yeah, I mean, like, so I did on Decider, I did an article about like what are the 4 sitcoms you need to watch, and I actually did side-by-side screen grabs.
Oh, great.
The actual sets and then what they're doing on WandaVision, and they are honestly like a pop culture highlights magazine, because you can just look at them side by side and be like, oh, the Family Ties windows have diamond elements, WandaVisions also have diamond elements, here's the same number of shelves, here's the same style of staircase. And so episode 1 is a almost carbon copy of the Dick Van Dyke Show set. The kitchen specifically is very similar. Then episode 2 is the Bewitched set, and then again, like the kitchen into dining room into living room is identical. Like, it's really weird. And then episode 3 is the Brady Bunch, and it is even up to like the glass things at the window and the staircase. I really quickly noticed, like, you know, all these silly little details, like that staircase, obviously that weirdly iconic, very 70s drop something and it falls through the stairs and it's inconvenient. How do you clean it? Carpeted staircase. But that and like the weird height of the set, like it's such a bizarrely tall set with those strange colored glass windows up top. That is the thing that I notice when I watch old sitcoms, which is almost exclusively what I'm watching for the past year, or 4 years, to be honest. Is that like, because of that 4:3 aspect ratio, I think that like in order to get those like wider shots, they knew they had to like, we have to like, everyone's living in 16-foot
yes
you know, like suburban houses. Did you ever watch HGTV's A Very Brady Renovation?
No.
Which is on Hulu right now.
Okay.
And highly recommended because, like the premise is they took the actual exterior of the Brady Bunch house, HGTV bought it, and then like made the insides match the show.
Oh my Lord.
Which that means they took a split level home and made it have 2 floors and a basement, and like they literally had to, it's essentially like they hollowed it out and then built an entirely new house within the house. And it's great, but it speaks to, it honestly feels like a companion piece to WandaVision because every week I would just cry at it because you're watching these 6 actors recreating the thing that they spent their formative years in, and especially when it came time to like doing Alice's room or Mike and Carol's room and the people that aren't there with them, it really like struck this nerve about like how important the Brady Bunch was to them, to us, and specifically that staircase. They ask Maureen McCormick, like, so we can either have it at the same incline or the same number of steps, but it'll have to not be the same angle because the house isn't tall enough. And they built 2 different staircases, one at the same angle and then one with the more shallow angle. And she got so emotional when she climbed up the stairs at the correct angle. And she was just like, this is so weird. Like and she's just in a Property Brothers garage.
Yeah.
But she's still, I don't know. So if you're loving WandaVision, I highly suggest to spend the weeks in between episodes watching A Very Brady Renovation because it's a vibe.
Oh, that sounds great. I don't have as much of a emotional valence personally around Brady Bunch because I was more of a Partridge Family watcher on Nick at Night. But yeah. Oh, a great question from the chat. First of all, Dadcom says, love the suit and scarf. But also Xavier says, what do you guys think about the ads?
Love them. They are the most fucked up thing on the show. Like, they're these little like nestled like Easter eggs of continuity and like foreboding dread in their ads, which like fuck capitalism, like whatever.
Right.
But like episode 1 is that toaster, which I didn't realize this until I think someone on Twitter pointed it out, that like it's a Stark Industries toaster and it is beeping like a bomb with a red flashing light, and Wanda's parents were killed by a Stark bomb, and she was trapped in a rebel staring at that logo for days. And
yikes.
So like that seems like
That's
a
dark.
metaphor for her parents dying. And then like, episode 2 Strucker, he'll make time for you. And it's like, that's the guy that like experimented on her. And then episode 3 is the Hydra Soak, which is like very brainwash.
Right. And also find the goddess within. It's like, look, you're looking for something.
They are literally like trying to unleash the House of M inside of her.
Who knows? But my theory is that there's a couple, a man and a woman, that show up repeatedly in those ads. The theory that I want to be true is that they're the ones pulling the strings because it is commercials that are really calling the shots on sitcoms, on television. It's the sponsors.
That's true.
Who
I like that better than, because other people are saying that maybe they're her parents, which I personally don't think that that's it, because if the first commercial was all we saw, then yeah, maybe. But her parents were never associated with Hydra. So like it falls apart when you get to episodes 2 and 3. And so it seems like more the commercials are just the way that Wanda's dealing with her own trauma and baggage of her past. While the sitcoms are more like her present.
Right.
We'll see where it goes. Oh God. But I love it. I love them.
I want to see Mentos commercials when we get to the 90s.
Oh my God. Oh. If there's like Taco Bell Chihuahuas.
Oh God. It's immediately the first thing that we watched after the most recent episode. And again, no spoilers. The smallest of spoilers was the commercial, the actual 70s commercial for Calgon. There's this great commercial in the 1970s for soap, for like bath soap. The slogan was "Calgon, take me away," with this woman who's stressed out and needs to be taken away to a bubble bath. And that's, like, you watch it and it's an exact duplicate. It's just the Calgon commercial.
This is a show I have wanted. I love multicam sitcoms. I think that when you watch a perfect Cheers episode, a perfect Seinfeld, a perfect Mary Tyler Moore, Dick Van Dyke, or Golden Girls, they are the best. And the fact that the entire format and genre is now defined by 2.5 Men and Big Bang Theory and absolute garbage is so frustrating, because it's like, no, we all still love Lucy and Seinfeld, and like, so it can still be good. And I've just been waiting. Like, the problem is that all the actors that should be doing multicam are just doing single cam stuff, and it makes me so mad. And so to see this, where it's like Catherine Hahn doing big comedy, it's like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Please
Oh my
give
God.
me more. I would just love to see this entire cast and team just keep doing
more shows.
From a studio audience, like sitcom shows, please.
This works so much better. Like, they were doing the Norman Lear shows. They did the All in the Family. And I think, what was the other one they did? Was it
Sanford and Son?
No, it was. Oh shoot, what's the name of the show? Moving on up.
The Jeffersons.
So they did those, and cool.
Yeah.
But I thought the cast for those, it was such stunt casting.
Yeah.
That it just didn't gel. But this cast, they work so nicely.
And it's very, it's wild. It's super great. But also, like, just seeing, like, Deborah Jo Rupp again as Mrs. Hart, and it's just like, she is like 90s sitcom royalty to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, even going all the way back, I was reading like her IMDb, and I'm like, oh, she's just been playing. This is the mom from the '70s show, that '70s show. She's been playing that character or flavor of that character since the Newhart show, or since Newhart.
Yeah,
I mean, she's just one of those faces where you're like, oh, it's you again.
Yeah, and she's so good at it, and it was just like it was just really cool to see them do that. And I also really like that. We haven't seen them yet, Kat Dennings and Randall Park, but it feels like they were like, so who's already in the MCU that does sitcoms? Oh, Kat Dennings and Randall Park, cool. So they're on the show now. although I think it does make sense that they're both there, getting their the characters. I am very excited to see Kat Dennings again. I don't know if I'm a Thor apologist as well, but I love Darcy. I think she's so funny.
Mr. T wants to see a Where's the Beef commercial parody. I love that idea.
Yeah.
That sounds great. John Newman is here. Hello from a dispensary in Nevada. I'm glad you're joining us from that setting. Simbreeze is a good point. The shows are very white so far. Interested what will happen when they get to, if they get to, Jeffersons and Fresh Prince. I think there was an interesting line from Geraldine when she said in episode 2, I don't know what I'm doing here. And that line, I think, is intriguing on so many levels. For one thing, as a character, what is she doing here? But as another, it does stand out because obviously those mid-century sitcoms have a real problem with diversity and representation.
No black people.
Yeah.
Which I do like that, like, so we have like Geraldine and then Herb and then Vision's coworker, I think his name is Norm, is also, I think he's Indian.
Yeah.
So like, I do like that they did not let the whiteness of those mid-century sitcoms dictate that, like, well, we can't have. But I think it also speaks to the fact that, like, a modern New Jersey, I'm assuming it's New Jersey. I actually don't know where Westview is.
There's no reason to assume that, and yet that feels right.
Because, well, in the comic books, they moved to Leonia, New Jersey. And so, like, my head always goes... But, like, a modern American town, which, like, if the theory is that Wanda has taken over a real Westview... and warped them all into a sitcom, then obviously people of color are gonna live in a modern American city. So it would be wild to not include them. Right. But I it's interesting to see where it's gonna go and if they're going to tackle that. I'm really excited to see more of Tiana Paris. I love Monica Rambeau. I'm a huge Captain Marvel fan in general, and so like everyone in her orbit, I adore. So I am very excited to see her. I've wanted Tiana Paris in the MCU since she was on Mad Men, like 8 years ago.
It is like everyone on the show is just such a gift. Even that, like, I keep forgetting his name, but the actor who plays like the hapless nerd in every episode, that was my grandmother's piano.
Yeah,
like
he's doing great work with just like one or two lines. I love that guy.
Fantastic. Oh gosh, John Newman says he also wants to see a commercial version of Joe never has a second cup of coffee at home. Martino's joining us from Italy. Welcome, Martino. Glad you could join us. And Mr. T-Bone says, given it's Westview and Randall Park's character is based in San Francisco, there's a whole West Coast Avengers thing. That's an interesting observation.
Please, that would be really cool. I mean, Scarlet Witch and Vision, like when their second miniseries launched, it launched at the same time as West Coast Avengers, so like it was a 4-part crossover.
Mm-hmm.
And they always had connections because Hank Pym, who made essentially Vision's grandfather, was on the team, and then Wonder Man, who's Vision's brother. But MCU Vision has none of those ties.
Yeah.
He has completely different ties. It's so weird.
It's a much cleaner slate. Something that I've noticed about those shows so far, because I think you and I both look at classic TV from a particularly queer perspective, is, you know, there's not a lot when you go back to like Dick Van Dyke or Bewitched or something like that. Certainly nothing like explicitly queer, but obviously you've got, you know, your Paul Lynde's and Uncle Arthur's. Yeah. And I'm trying to think of like Brady Bunch, if there was ever...
No. I mean, aside from like Robert Reed himself being a gay man.
Well, and that's what I was going to say, is there's so much more behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, where's Hayden Rourke? Jesus, I'm mirrored.
Now, wait, who's Hayden Rourke? I'm not...
I Drew Magini.
Oh, yeah, of course, yes.
The man that I'm writing a book about.
Okay, well, there you go.
So I've been doing a lot of Genie watching and stuff. But like, it is... I love... those mid-century. I mean, Richard Deacon from Dick Van Dyke Show is gay IRL.
He actually, so my podcast is Sewers of Paris, which you were on episode, oh goodness gracious, 309. You were on episode 309. Go listen to episode 309 of Sewers of Paris for Brett talking about Charles Nelson Riley at length.
Yeah.
But
he's also over my shoulder.
Oh, perfect. You're being looked over by so many, you have so many godfathers, gay godfathers. But when I started doing that podcast, somebody mentioned that they saw Richard Deacon, who played Mel on the Dick Van Dyke Show, at the Sewers of Paris bar in Los Angeles when it was a bar in the 1970s. Oh, they saw him at this Hollywood gay bar all the way back then, back in the day. Which, oh my God, I'm just like, oh my, the stories.
That's what I mean, that's why I'm writing this book about Hayden, is because like these stories do not get told and they don't get preserved, and you know, Barbara Eden is the only living cast member of Genie still around. So it's like, once she's gone, like the people that actually knew him personally are like, you know, those stories are all gone. So it's been kind of this like race against time to preserve his life being gay in World War II, and then Broadway, and then Old Hollywood, where he's best friends with Rock Hudson, and he went on cruises with Rock Hudson. Like, that's...
Oh, boy. Boy, if those ships could talk.
Yeah, it's like, if there was an Old Hollywood gay, Hayden Rourke was best friends with him, and they like had dinner parties all the time. I mean, he was close friends with Cesar Romero, Ross Hunter, and so I'm like, and also as gay people, there is a vibe I get from younger gays that learning history is boring or not cool, or it is there's a pride in being stupid.
Sure.
that annoys me, and it's just like, well, our history isn't taught in schools, and our forefathers mostly are dead because of Ronald Reagan and AIDS, but Ronald Reagan's an action to AIDS, so it like really behooves us to tell our stories. So I would, to tie it back to WandaVision, little Billy is gay. And
that's
is
true.
One of Marvel Comics' most prominent gay superheroes.
Right. So, it'd be so interesting to see how that develops, if at all, because MCU has not been fantastic about having gay characters.
Been dragging their feet, but it is happening. They've already cast. America Chavez is going to be in Doctor Strange 2, and she is a proud lesbian Latina. Well, and also it seems like, based on all the castings they've made and the introductions of Billy and Tommy, which is not a spoiler if the twins are in all the trailers and all the et cetera, it feels like they are setting up Young Avengers for a Phase 5 or whatever, because they've cast Haley Steinfeld as playing Kate Bishop, and Catherine Newton is playing Cassie Lang in the next Ant-Man movie. And now they have Wiccan and Speed were just born on WandaVision. So it feels like they're heading towards finally giving us that like sexual orientation, identity, racially diverse teen ass kicker team. That's gonna be great.
Red Rex says Wiccan has a boyfriend in the comics. Maybe we get a very special episode type deal. That would be interesting.
I do wonder, like, if they're born in the 70s, so the footage that we've seen from the 80s, they're still babies, because the way that time is flowing for Wanda is also very weird. Like when, like at the beginning of episode 3, Vision's like, she's been pregnant for 12 hours, but fully, 5 years has passed.
Sure. Aesthetic. Yeah, exactly. Stephanie says, is it on Disney Plus? Yes, you can get it on Disney Plus. WandaVision is on Disney Plus. We're up to episode 3 now. Every Friday they post a new one.
Friday at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m.
Oh my goodness.
I have to write those posts every week.
Oh
twice.
Boy. Well, yeah, take those disco naps so you can be up late. Mr. T-Bone says, Wiccan's boyfriend is Hulkling, Teddy, who may get introduced in the movies that deal with Skrulls. I would love to see that. Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, Skrulls, because one of the series they've announced is Secret Invasion, starring Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn, which is going to be like outer space, Skrulls, et cetera, and Teddy himself is like the I think he's now the king of the Skrull. I have fallen off of my reading, but it bodes well for Teddy and for Teddy and Billy. There's all these E names: Tommy, Teddy, Billy.
Right.
Because they were the lead. This married gay couple was the lead of Marvel Comics' big publishing crossover of 2020. So.
And of course, we want to see more books by Anthony Oliveira. That's our great wish for 2021. More of that, please.
Yeah.
MCU LGBT representation is we have a baby, says Verskerton. I think the MCU.
We have a baby, and we also have that one guy in the self-help group of Avengers Endgame.
Mentioned ever so briefly.
Yeah.
Look, to be fair, just because a couple is mixed gender doesn't mean that they're not queer. There could be bisexuals anywhere you look. But still, come on.
I'm trying to think if they've introduced any characters who are actually... I mean, well, Valkyrie is going to be queer. They're going to finally confirm that in the next Thor movie. They've explicitly said
can't come soon enough.
Yeah.
I think almost every day about that one moment in Ragnarok where she's like standing behind the gun.
Yeah.
Powered lesbian moment.
I mean, it's just like I am a 100% homosexual, but that was oh my god.
Yeah. Not Animal Tested said, if they do not consult with Anthony for Billy and Teddy, then for these movies we should boycott. Absolutely.
Marvel does a really good job with bringing the creators in. I know Kelly Sue DeConnick, who is essentially she didn't create Carol Danvers, but the 2012 relaunch of her as Captain Marvel was her. I mean, she's the one that commissioned Jamie McKelvey to design Carol Danvers' costume, because they weren't originally going to give her a new costume because they didn't have the budget or whatever. And she was like, I will pay for it out of my pocket. Can you please just give her pants? But they brought her a set. She's in the movie. That stuff's so cool. I don't know if they... I mean, a lot of the people that are responsible for WandaVision have passed or are not in good shape, I do believe.
Sure. Bob says they've announced that one of the Eternals will be gay. Really?
Oh, yeah, they did that. Yeah, I don't know who, because let's face it, no one cares about the Eternals.
Oh, bless their hearts. No,
it's just it's like the Eternals are like the Inhumans, but boring. And it's man, the Inhumans are already there for me.
I mean, but here's the thing: is who cared? Mainstream, I'm talking about. Who cared about Iron Man before 2007
Guardians
or whatever?
Of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
that's I have no doubt. I mean, the cast they've announced is stacked. As someone whose Avengers are the '90s Avengers, the ones who all wore leather bomber jackets that had A's on the sleeve, I am very excited for them introducing Cersei and Black Knight. If this gets us to a Cersei, Black Knight, and Crystal love triangle on the big screen.
This is, I can't remember who said this. I might have already mentioned this on this chat. I can't remember. But at some point, I read somewhere, somebody said that what Marvel does so right, and DC sometimes does not, is that they are making genre movies. They happen to have superheroes in them, but the movies are, it's we just watched Far From Home again, and it's just such a great 80s teen vacation movie. Yeah. Even without the Spider-Man stuff. And the same with, Ragnarok and whatever.
Yeah, every single one of their movies. And I think what I said, one of the many smart things I tweeted about the show. Now, every single time a new Marvel movie comes out, the actors always go on the press tour and they say like, well, I mean, Winter Soldier's a Marvel movie, but it's really a political thriller. And it's like, Ant-Man's really a heist movie, a heist comedy, and like Ragnarok's really a buddy. And it's like, to an extent, they're right, but like the third act is always a bunch of people fighting a giant person and like things get destroyed, etc. Right. WandaVision is the first time that Marvel has ever said, this is an old sitcom. And then the first episode comes out and it's like, they weren't lying. That is literally opening credits to the end credits when it's like directed by like Digby Barnes or something. Yeah,
even the names in the credits, exactly.
And it's like, oh my God, like they committed.
Yeah.
And I think that is like super cool.
I was thinking when I was watching that first episode of WandaVision, either we're going to get the intrusion in the first 5 minutes, or they're going to play it straight the entire time like Margaret Dumont. And that's what we got. Like there was no breaking. There was no like breaking essentially the kayfabe of the show.
Well, and what I also like is like the percentage shifts a little each episode. Because like episode 1 is like 97% sitcom, 3% real world. And then like episode 2 is like 89% sitcom. Because like, and then episode 3 is more like, I don't know, like 80, 79. Like there's a significant chunk at the end that is, Italian adult horror.
Yes.
Donald Sutherland showing his butt in too many sex scenes.
And the glitching, there's like
that. Oh my God. So, like we were talking earlier about how the horror moment of episode 1 broke the fourth wall. And I realized when I was writing my recap that there's the glitch moment in episode 3 when Vision starts being like, wait a second. The dinner with the hearts, the blah, blah, blah. And then it just like snaps back.
Right.
And it makes you, the viewer in our world, think that your internet connection has fucked up.
It was exactly that.
Disney Plus it. And so like that, they literally broke the fourth wall, except the fourth wall is the computer screen. Like, that is super cool.
It wasn't the like slidey rewind of episode 2, which I'm such a dork about. So in episode 2, at the very end, there's this moment where the episode rewinds. So I was like, maybe something in there. So I took that clip, I captured it, I fed it into. So the conclusion of the story is there's nothing there. But the amount of work that I went through, I captured the clip, I put it into Audition, I made it go backwards and slowed it down to see if there was anything there. I put it into Premiere and like set the video backwards and flipped it around and tried to stretch out the distortion.
Oh my God.
There's nothing there.
Is it just what we saw? Just reverse or whatever?
Yes, and so distorted that like there's nothing to interpret. So the picture is what we saw, and the audio is literally just audio going like oh well. But I'm doing such a treasure hunt to find that stuff. And then like you say,
because they're putting it in there in a lot of places, which is super cool. I thought there was something else that I didn't realize that in episode 2 they name each other their Glamour and Illusion. That's their stage name.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I unfortunately did not read 1985's Vision and the Scarlet Witch Volume 2 until like after I wrote my recap, and then I realized, there's a magician couple named Glamour and Illusion that are supporting characters throughout that entire series. And I was like, oh man, like that's the kind of stuff that I live for. And if I'd only read more comics during the insurrection.
If there's anything to take away from all this, read more comics.
While your government is falling apart.
Nini says, I didn't read many comics when I was a kid, so this is an innocent-ish question. Did the MCU, or any of the Marvel books for that matter, I'm throwing that in, ever have a trans or trans-ish character? I can't think of anything in the movie that would even hint at that.
No, and everything in the comics is a problematic. Is very bad. There have been more recent, like in Squirrel Girl, the most recent Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, she teams up with Chipmunk Hunk and Koi Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Because Super Skull is great. Squirrel Girl is a great funny comic. And they established that Koi Boy is a trans man because when he takes off his shirt, he's wearing a binder. And they don't. It's one of those things that, like, if you know what a binder is, you know what you're seeing. Like, they didn't, like, it wasn't a very special issue, and it wasn't explicitly stated, but, like, the creators both said, like, yeah, that's what that is who Koi Boy is. And I didn't read the entire series, so I don't know if they ever actually, like, addressed it. But the problem is that with comic books, especially like Marvel and DC comic books, if you want to establish a character as queer, you honestly have to out them and then say it every single time they appear forever, and then hope that the writer that takes over also does that. Like, there's so much work.
Right.
Like, you know, a writer established Hercules as bisexual, and then, like, fandom, like, yeah, he's bisexual, and then you have, like, a modern Hercules writer being like, no, he's not, or the editor-in-chief being like, he isn't, and it's like,
come on, we were so close. We had it. Yeah, we had it in our grasp.
It's like creators have to work so hard to break past the assumed cis, assumed straight barrier that comes with all these characters. There are there's a character called Cloud from the 80s who was a member of the Defenders, I do believe. Yeah, the New Defenders, who I don't even know a lot of Cloud's story. Cloud was female present. Basically, was like a being of ethereal mist, and was female presenting, and then fell in love with Iceman, and then, like, took on a male form, and then that, like, fucked with Iceman's head and was like, I can't be with you anymore. And it was really it was one of those, like, the writer in the 80s was, like, trying to, like, talk about, like, gender and stuff, but reading it back, it's like, that's very trickstery. That's like, that's not cool. Also, in superhero comics, characters can be trans through non-alien and magical means, which usually is how it is. It's like, I'm a shapeshifter, or I've been cursed, or Sasquatch was put into a woman's body for a long time through magic, and that Loki shifts gender. But, like, yeah, it's
there's hints, but they, like, it's so clearly doing, you know, the thing of it's about us without us, where, you know, there might be something that gets it, that's pointed in the right direction but doesn't quite land, let's say.
Yeah.
Travis has a great question in the chat. Brett, what comic runs should one read if they enjoy WandaVision? I've read The Vision, which the show seems indebted to, but what else would you suggest?
I think that, so The Vision is the Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walta ongoing series, which is Vision builds his own family in a suburb outside of DC, and then, like, it is a prestige drama in comic book form, so it is formatically similar. I think that if you can track down The Vision and Scarlet Witch Volume 2, Volume 1 isn't that relevant, but, like, Volume 2, it's a 12-issue miniseries from 1985. And it's very 1985. Like, the dialogue ain't great. Like, it is, but it is very silly. But it's literally like they move to the suburbs. They deal with a lot of bigotry because, like, we don't want a mutant and a robot living in our town, so they have to deal with that. And it is not a 12-part story. It is, like, basically like 12 standalone issues. In the third issue, Scarlet Witch becomes pregnant through magic. And then every issue after that is a month in their life. And so, like, you see the 9 months of her pregnancy culminating in the birth, and you see, like, them at Thanksgiving and Christmas. And this is also the series where they find out that Magneto is their father, where Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch find out that Magneto is their father. Before that was retconned because of Marvel movie rights in the 2010s.
Right. Yeah, we can't, like, overstate the complexity of the legal problems that, like, the story that is driven by legal realities.
That's definitely been the case in the last 10 years, especially when Fox had the X-Men and Marvel was, like, trying to still make money off X-Men stuff without actually putting money in Fox's pocket, which is rough. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other... If you can track down, and this is actually probably good, not so much for... So if you like WandaVision... I think that it would actually be smart to read the other comic books that are inspiring the upcoming Disney Plus shows, because tonally, those comic books feel a lot similar to WandaVision. So, like, if you can find a Hawkeye by Matt Fraction and David Aja, which is the Hawkeye ongoing series from 2012, that is him with Kate Bishop. It's what the TV show is going to be based on. But, like, that series is funny and kind of irreverent. It's also breaks the format and is really like every single issue, the artist, who I think is Italian, would include a playlist of like Italian pop music that he's like, this is the soundtrack for the issue. Like, so it's a cool vibe. And then also, if you can find either Dan Slott's She-Hulk run or the Charles Soule Javier Pulido She-Hulk run.
Okay.
Both of those are essentially sitcoms in comic book form. The Dan Slott one is especially like, it is funny and character driven, first and foremost. And the Charles Soule one, Charles Soule is a lawyer and comic book writer. So he was writing a superhero lawyer. So like, it's really like the details are right and it's really good. The art is super great. And then Tatiana Maslany is playing her in Disney Plus series. So I think like those are fun to do, because, you know, Wanda Maximoff has been done dirty a lot in the comics.
Yeah, I don't know her story there so well. Like, I almost exclusively know her from the MCU stories, and even there, I'm like, she feels like such a and also character, and you know, with special guest. Like, I want so much more Wanda.
Well, that is one reason why I am actually glad they killed Quicksilver, even though I love Quicksilver, is because in the comic books with them as twins, he, through, you know, just misogyny, and men are the ones that write the comic books in the 80s and 90s, he gets all the attention. Like, he gets all the agency, he gets all the interesting stories. Wanda is... The way they deal with her twins is fucked up. Beyond any telling. Yeah,
I know, like, the basic storyline of it, which is... a kind of drama that I don't think would fly with most audiences.
Yeah, to have her twins actually revealed to be shards of the devil's soul, and then Agatha Harkness being like, it's better that she just doesn't remember she had kids. I erased that from her memory, and only her memory. All the other Avengers, you all remember Tommy and Billy, but she shouldn't. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Wanda's hard. But I think it is a testament to Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany, because I've been excited about WandaVision, even independent of the sitcom stuff, which obviously I love, because I really love them in the movies. And I think it speaks to them and their chemistry that, from having truly very little screen time, I have latched onto something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Like, even before the series, I was like, them? Why are they doing a show about them? And like, went back and watched. And was like, oh, actually, there's just some quality about the way they look at each other, the way that they interact. Like, there's a tenderness that, despite all the like drama and love stories and all that stuff that goes on in the Marvel movies, like, there's such a sweetness.
And what I love about, and this might be a point that, I don't know, definitely like a female critic pointed out at some point. I can't remember their name or what, but I know that I didn't come across this because I wouldn't notice this because I'm a man. Scarlet Witch is the space she occupies in the larger MCU is completely different, because usually when the woman comes along, they always feel like they need to, like, she's the most badass. And they're always like aggressive, physical, and, you know, Black Widow. I love Black Widow. I love Gamora. Like, you know, there's no shade. I love that now, like, Scarlet Witch is not a physical fighter. She doesn't, you know, I don't even think the other women do this, but like, she doesn't sacrifice any of her femininity to like be to be a superhero. And at times that means wearing like a bustier.
Sure. Yeah.
which is weird, not cool. But I love that. And I love that she is still the most powerful Avenger. Like, my favorite moments in Infinity War and Endgame are when they realize, like, oh, maybe we shouldn't discount her. Like, when she shows up in Endgame and just, like, wrecks Thanos.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Oh, what a pleasure. What a joy.
I love that, and I love seeing like a woman do that, and it isn't all about like flipping her thighs around their neck and twisting them down. Which again, I love every time I see it because it's super cool. But it's nice seeing some variety.
Kirk Novak recommends Runaways. A lesbian woman marries a Skrull who usually presents as male. That sounds good. I have not jumped into the Runaways series yet, but I've only heard good things.
Yeah, Zavin on Runaways is a Skrull who initially presents as male, and then, well, they fall in love with Carolina. The way I pronounced it when I was reading it is not how they pronounced it on the Hulu show, so I can't remember. She's a lesbian, like she's like, that was a really beautiful thing about Volume 1 of the comics, is her like discovering that and being like, I think I love Nico. I think, oh my god. And so Zavin just changes to present as female to be like with the person that they love, which you can unpack that. Someone can. I don't know, like, if that's, I truly don't know if that's like good representation or not. But on the TV show, Zavin always presented as female because also she wasn't a Skrull because of legal rights.
Oh, gotcha. Once again.
Yeah.
Andy says, as a gay man, I see people say that gay characters or relationships in their favorite form of media are forced. How do you get past that? I'm real. I want to be represented. Well, yeah, I think the easy answer to that is like, it's way more forced to have only straight characters. Like the fantasy world where everyone is heterosexual that has no bearing on actual reality. That's what's forced.
Yeah.
Also, conversely, I would say, you know what? I'm all for forcing gay characters or queer characters into stuff. Let's force our fucking way in because, you know what? We're powerful and we're just going to like break down the door. And yeah, that's right. I forced it. I feel great.
There's a thing that comic book assholes don't understand is that the foundation of superhero comics was built by cis white men. Not all Christian, because Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and like hey, Jewish people got in there, so that's good. Like it was built on that. So like Black Panther was created by white dudes. Like Storm was created by white dudes. North Star was created by straight men. So what they don't understand is that like the characters in comic books that stick around, that last, are the ones that have already been around for 30 to 40, 50 years. It is very, 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 very hard for a new character to take the same kind of hold as an Iron Man or a Captain America. So that is why we, queer people and like, allies that actually want to, abet some representation, have to do things like make Iceman gay. And establish it like, a character that's been around since 1963. That's one of the original X-Men that is literally never going anywhere because he's an original X-Man. Is gay, has always been gay, was deeply in the closet, and it's a story I relate to. Someone who didn't come out till senior year of college. So I think that it is important to do things like that. And to also acknowledge the work that like Chris Claremont on X-Men in the 80s, like everyone is bisexual. Chris Claremont writes them.
Right. The great energy. That's that. Honestly, I want to see more pansexuality. I want to see some asexual characters, and like let's make that real.
So what it takes now is like current writers going back and being like, when Chris Claremont wrote Mystique living with a woman, Destiny, and they were raising a child, Rogue, together, that's because they were a couple. And so like modern writers, like they had been a comic book couple since 1980. Destiny died in 90, I think. But like they did not get their first on-panel kiss until a couple of years ago in a flashback. And it's because it took like modern writers to be like, this is what he was doing that y'all wouldn't let him do.
Right. Here's all right. Sorry that the subtext missed you, but
so when it comes to like when I for fun I'll recast a Mary Tyler Moore show. I'll be like, what would I do if I was rebooting that as like Mary Richards? And I'm like, make Murray Slaughter gay, because when I go back and I watch Mary Tyler Moore, Gavin MacLeod is giving me gay.
Oh yeah, the character was supposed to be like originally he was gonna like, it's just like what's his name, was it Chandler? I think it was Chandler on Friends, was supposed to be gay, And then they're like, never mind. And the same thing with Murray on Mary Tyler Moore. So
I'm like, if you reboot it, like, give them, like, acknowledge what was there and make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan Reynolds, Timothy Matthews says, Ryan Reynolds has said that Deadpool is bi and should have a boyfriend at some point. I don't know if that's going to happen. Have you heard anything? I have not. Have you?
No, I mean, like, that's the comic books have. First of all, like, know that if you want to write professionally about Deadpool, you are going to be angering a certain part of Reddit, as I've discovered time and time again. Boy. Deadpool's sexuality is a weird thing because, like, in the 90s, a lot of it was like having him make jokes about being attracted to men and like wanting to like put sunscreen lotion on Cable's back as a joke, as a like making other men uncomfortable kind of thing. And more modern writers have, you know, smartly tried to use that to actually establish like, no, Deadpool is fully pansexual. Like, but the thing that I don't like is like they will say, oh, he's pansexual. He only ever has significant relationships with female characters, though, obviously. And that's like, you can't do both of those.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah, like and so like Ryan Reynolds championing that would be great. And it would be really great to have Ryan Reynolds have a like sex scene with a dude or just anyone who isn't a woman.
I would not mind that myself.
Also, because a lot of jerks love Deadpool, and so I would just love just like the deliciousness of them having to like reconcile like, I'm a homophobe, but the guy who's on the t-shirt I'm wearing is queer. Oh no, I just love it.
Yeah. Xavier brings up a good point. Star-Lord is buying the comics now. I would love to see some queer stuff with Star-Lord. And I wonder how the actor who plays him would respond to that.
This is my dirty secret is how much I love Star-Lord. Star-Lord is I recognize it's horrible, but like Star-Lord is who I would be in the MCU. Really?
Okay, tell me about Star-Lord. Tell me I'm like, what is your...
He's awful. Just like the way that he reacts to everything. Though honestly, like, first of all, the way that he turns to pop culture to like deal with like emotions and trauma and shit and always covers everything up with jokes is 100% me.
He's a walking Darmok.
Yeah. Every single time I do an RPG, which isn't often, or a role-playing anything, I have that kind of chaotic energy. I mean, for example, my friend wrote a... Jesus Christ. My friend wrote a Star Wars RPG, and we all created our own characters, and I basically created, like, my guy is basically gay Han Solo, his name is Dick Skirmish, and he's, like, just, like, an asshole, and so... Basically, like, it's structured like Guardians of the Galaxy, where we're in prison. Bib Fortuna comes, and he wants to... basically, he's, like, there to give a gig to any of these assholes in prison, and they get to come out of prison. And so I asked the DM, I'm like, so is Bib Fortuna gay? And he's like, roll to see if Bib Fortuna is gay. And so I rolled, and he was. But also like, look at Bib Fortuna. Obviously, a queen.
Yes. This is Jabba's sidekick.
His major domo with the tentacle head and like the great fingernails. And so after that, I was like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna seduce Bib Fortuna, and then like the roles kept happening, and next thing I know, me and my entire crew are having an orgy with Bib Fortuna involving like tentacle, like wax and like tentacle lube and stuff. And so like that. If who we are when we are doing role-playing games is who we might be when faced with those things, I think I have that chaotic Star-Lord energy. You've got
what was it, Dick Skirmish somewhere inside you.
I love, and also like, so I wrote an article about in Infinity War, everyone hates on him because when he finds out that Gamora is dead and he like starts beating the shit out of Thanos. I feel like I'm the only person who watches that and is like, yeah, that's appropriate. I would do the exact same thing. If I found out that Thanos killed my husband, I have a temper and I would do the exact same thing. Although maybe I would shoot him in the head. I don't know. But also I think that Infinity War is a really cool thing because like it is it's a movie that is a lot of little few versus the many choices. where people there. Star-Lord ain't the only one that fucks it up. Doctor Strange should have just destroyed the Time Stone at the beginning, but for some reason he's like, my oath forbids it. It's
sure.
like, dude. So anyway, Chris Pratt is also most likely a wild Republican asshole. So
well, yeah, I mean that certainly complicates things.
Yeah, he is hot. I can't help it. He might be my hottest Chris. I'm a garbage. Can't help it.
Look, it's not your fault that he's charismatic. It doesn't help anyone to pretend that he isn't. He's charismatic, and it's a problem. But that's where we're at now.
Yeah, I also have weird taste, so I'm not gonna.
Kirk says, "What about Eddie Brock in the modern comics? The subtext of him loving the symbiotic becomes more and more textual. He refers to him as my love."
Oh, really?
That is interesting. So I have no knowledge of that whole storyline. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's loving his weird alien goo monster that's attached to his body at all times.
I will say, like, all I know of Venom is from the Topher Grace movie, the extraordinarily horny Topher Grace Spider-Man movie, and also all of the horny Tumblr art. So yeah. That's what I got. That's my knowledge.
Yeah, symbiotes are thirsty beings.
Yes.
Well, what I love was, New Mutants, for all of its problems, gave us a canonical same-sex romance and kiss that was actually the entire plot was built upon it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly feels kind of like, of course, the first major Hollywood superhero movie to have like very, very gay characters is the one that is delayed by 3 years. The company gets bought out from under it. Then a pandemic hits. And then like the director says, of course you should sacrifice your life to go see my movie. and then it finally, it's great. It is great to watch on your laptop.
Yes. So I want to open the floor to everybody, chat and Brett alike. Speculation about what's coming up on WandaVision. What's going on? What are your theories?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I think that we'll know more when we see episode 4. We'll know more about the future of the show when we see the future of the show.
In the future, where we'll spend the rest of our lives.
I think so it makes sense that episodes 1, 2, and 3 are 50s, 60s, 70s. Even though the Dick Van Dyke Show ran in the 60s, they still mapped it onto the 50s.
Sure. There's a little Lucy in there, yeah.
I specifically asked Matt Shackman that question, like just to be like, and he was like, I know, it's fine. Well, I preface it with like, I'm not meaning to be an asshole. I'm just like actually wanting to know because I know that you know a lot about this. I know a lot about this. What do you think? What is going to be interesting to see if episode 4 is an 80s sitcom or if it is an all real world. Like if it is, the way episode 3 ends, it would make sense for this to be the Monica Rambeau episode. Mm-hmm. The like, what has she been doing since she was a child in Captain Marvel?
What's going on in the real world?
Yeah, like is Randall Park, Kat Dennings, like if that other cast in there, it would make sense if episode 4 is that based on how episode 3 ended. And then we might get sitcom stuff because we might be able to see episodes 2 and 3 from her perspective. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It almost feels like pointless to speculate because it's like I'm just all along for the ride. I know I want to see Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much.
I want to see. I mean, my boss at Decider suggested like, what if they just bring in Evan Peters to play him and then never address it? Just like how on sitcoms they would just replace actors and never address it. Yeah. And I'm like, that would be real cool. And honestly, I could see the show doing that.
I would love, the connections to the movies are so, it's such a unknowable nebula right now that because the show itself, WandaVision, has been such an art project that it's really hard to know just how many filaments it's gonna actually have to the movies. But the mention in the most recent episode, and so here's some spoilers for folks if you haven't seen episode 3, you might not want to watch. Mentioning her brother and like remembering stuff, and somebody saying like Ultron. Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna start talking about all that stuff.
Which is what a contingent of the fans have been complaining about not getting in episodes 1 and 2, which I'm just like, guys, chill.
You've got the movies.
Yeah, I'm also fully the people that are like, episode 1 was too slow. And I'm just like, did you watch any of the Netflix Marvel shows? Did you watch Runaways or Cloak and Dagger? For work, I've had to watch almost all of those Marvel Netflix shows. Including Jessica Jones 2 and 3 and Luke Cage season 3. And if you want some paint dry television,
I feel like that's always the Netflix problem. Like even like the best Netflix shows are like it's like they're slowed down like 92%. Like it's just the pacing is just a little off.
That's why like The Mandalorian coming out and be like, you know what, if an episode needs to be 25 minutes, it's 25 minutes. If it needs to be 50, it's 50. We're just doing it, and it's gonna. Mandalorian's the best paced show on television because it actually recognizes without. Streaming means we can do whatever we want. Streaming doesn't mean every episode is 70 minutes, Luke Cage season 2.
Right. No padding. Andy says, do we think Vision is actually real or is he going to disappear once the illusion's gone?
That is, so I mean, like theories, I do think that like Wanda is in this reality because she has recreated her love and will not want to break the reality because breaking the reality might mean he goes away. I think that is maybe a push and pull, we'll see. But also seems very obvious, so maybe they won't do that.
I would kill me if we lost Vision after this because I'm just enjoying their time together so much. Xavier says Ralph is the villain.
Well, maybe. I love that though. I mean, just even if Ralph isn't actually Mephisto or whatever. If they're just doing that riff on, Maris, Vera, like all of those unseen characters that are always dunked on. I love that.
My Ralph. Yeah.
Ralph. He looks better in the dark.
It's so good.
A beer called June 2nd. She's so great.
Is Wanda the real Vision, says Mr. T-Bone, or villain? Is Wanda the real villain, and will she be the villain of Doctor Strange 2? After all, its subtitle is Multiverse of Madness, which equals Mom. That might be a little too much numerology. Like, the mom connection, maybe. But, I don't know. It would be interesting to see Wanda become a villain.
I think... so the Catherine Hahn's character is like the big question mark because like all the other townspeople they've cast Emma Caulfield, who is perfect.
Oh God,
I'm so glad to see her back after Anya. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Give Emma Caulfield all the work. They cast Catherine Hahn in this role, and that implies like she's going to be doing a lot more than just like wink, wink, popping in. And it's very clear. So Agatha Harkness in the comic books wears a brooch like. Up here, which is where she's wearing in episode 1. It's on her cardigan in episode 2. It's around a necklace on episode 3. So it's like it seems very likely, or it might be a big misdirect, that Agnes, her real name is Agatha Harkness. Which it didn't dawn on me that like all these names that characters are using might not be their real names.
Sure.
Because Geraldine is not Monica.
Right.
And it wasn't until it's like, oh, Dottie might not be that character's actual name.
Right.
For some reason, I just took it as like everyone else is using their actual names, but Geraldine clearly isn't. So,
Benny and Timothy want to see a musical sitcom episode. What a joy that would be.
Do you think that they can... I don't really care. If they can't sing, it's even better.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
I don't care.
I wanted to go into that, like, clearly, suddenly we just made the switch to what they recorded in the sounds, like in the sound booth. They're just lip syncing along. Bring in Marnie Nixon to supply that.
Paul Bettany is such a revelation on this show.
Yeah.
I had no idea. He is that magic scene in episode 2 is so funny.
Yeah, legitimately funny. Yeah,
I was like, Marvel needs to do an Emmy campaign for this show, specifically him. And if not Emmy, Golden Globe. He can definitely win the Golden Globe.
What is remarkable to me is, as you mentioned, he's doing that Dick Van Dyke, but then just like a chameleon, dissolving backwards and forwards with Hugh Laurie. I see so much like Jeeves and Wooster.
Those are the two people that he specifically mentioned.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Hugh Laurie and Dick Van Dyke. While also still being Vision. And what I think is so cool about the comics that this is like loosely-ish based on, like that second volume of Vision and Scarlet Witch, Vision has decided that he's human, Like he's like, I know that I'm a synthetic body, but like my brain comes from Simon Williams, who's a human. So like if I want to say I'm human, I'm human. And so therefore, like the Vision in that comic is, you know, showing emotions and like really trying to explore the range of the human existence. And so the fact that the show is also doing that for that character is like this cool little tiny little Easter eggy nod to the comics. And it's also just fun to see them realize that Paul Bettany in interviews is like rakish and charming and just like silly, and to just let him do what he does best.
He's got a great story about the casting of the show when they brought him in and he was convinced that he was going to be fired. Because, you know, character is dead. And so they're like, we need to have a meeting with you. And he's like, well, here it goes. Guess back to sending out headshots or whatever. And they bring him in. They're like, so we're thinking about doing a show. And he just like tells the story very like entertainingly. And yeah, you know, it's so funny because, you know, he's just been a voice. He's been like the robot guy for so long. And now I want to just see him in stuff, being an actual person and having characters to play.
And he only ever does dramas, really.
That's what's amazing. Yeah, same thing with like Will Arnett. Will Arnett was such a dramatic actor until Arrested Development. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I point out, like, so if you go back, people need to give Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany like major props for being able to pull this off, because sitcom acting is the hardest form of acting. Because first of all, like comedy is harder than drama. I fully believe it is harder. Yeah. And then to take the most scripted and most artificial form of comedy and to make it natural and enjoyable is so hard. And if you want proof, go and watch the episode of Friends guest starring Brad Pitt.
Oh, Brad Pitt, yeah.
Brad Pitt is horrible. Brad Pitt is a good actor, and he is an awful sitcom actor. And granted, this is like latter Friends, where it is a lot more muggy and like over the top, but it's like you start realizing like Jennifer Aniston and Lisa Kudrow and David Schwimmer are like they're masters at a craft that you didn't even know was a craft until you see someone really like bombing at it.
Yeah.
So.
You know what this reminds me of is the clip that's going around gay Twitter today of from Drag Race of Utica Queen making Rue just like completely lose it over that like, have you ever smoked weed question. And Utica, like I've worked with Utica. We did a D&D show when I was in Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
She is hysterical. And she is just a master of the rolling laugh. Like you get like a little bit like this booth over here has a giggle and she like hears it and she just feeds on it and she's like, and like she could just get it to cover the entire audience. And it's a masterclass in comedy. Like,
well, that's a thing that is so hard to teach and to pull off. And the fact that like Elizabeth Olsen has like never, like in the press conference, she was like, I was terrified to do this in front of an audience. Like I needed that fourth wall up. And the fact that she did it is so, I don't know, put more respect on the names.
Yes.
of all of our of all of our sitcom heroes.
Oh, great. Yes, our heroes who really they're like doing like the hardest work, and it's just absolutely incredible. My theory, I'm just going to throw this out here. I think everyone, not everyone, almost everyone in that bubble, in that TV world, I think they're all dead. I think these are all people. I know it's dark. I'm sorry. But there's a line at the end of episode 3 where one of the characters is trying to get something out. We're all, and he's like, we're all what? I think these are all people who have been in her life who have died either because of her or who she had some strong emotional connection to, and she has brought them back.
And I mean, yeah, between Sokovia and then the like attack on that embassy in where was it, Africa, wherever they were?
Yeah, she's lost a lot, and so I think she's brought them back, and they are vaguely aware of it, but they are not entirely sure what's going on.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's really. That's also why I don't know if Agnes is the villain. I think she might be Agatha Harkness, but also Agatha Harkness in the comic books was more of an anti-hero. Like she wasn't totally a villain, so it would, because she seems equally trapped, but is a lot more forceful about it than like a Herb or a Norm or a the Hearts or anyone.
She had a line in episode 2 where I was like, so every time the show breaks genre, it's significant. And she broke the genre with that line, how is anybody doing this sober? Like, that is not something that would be said on Bewitched.
They did not drink then.
I mean, they certainly like a housewife pulling a flask out of her handbag would not have happened. And I'm like, she knows what's going on. She is in on this, at least to some extent. She may not be in control, in charge. Yeah. But she knows something.
What? And also the footage we've seen that we haven't seen in the show yet, but in the trailers of her in a Halloween witch costume.
Yes.
Which honestly,
tipping the hand a bit. Yeah.
It's so on the nose that she might not be Agatha Harkness.
Yeah. That's true.
Very on the nose.
As Tim Rogers has said, if it were any more on the nose, it would be a nose. So, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. I think that's just going to wrap it on up. We've been chatting for an hour and a half about all this stuff, and we're probably going to be wrong about all of our theories. So,
I hope so.
Yeah.
Keep on surprising me.
That I will say that the show has always like surprised, and like it's a you can't look away show.
Well, and it also does. I love that it feels like I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, like Ian McKellen might show up. Like
we were talking before we went live about that. Yes, if Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart suddenly show up and they're like, "Well, now we're here."
Well, and you know, like Sword is an X-Men thing, and Sword is who Monica is working for because their logo has been on the helicopter, the back of the Beekeeper, and also on the little thing next to the TV in episode 1.
Right.
And Sword was introduced in Joss Whedon and John Cassidy's Astonishing X-Men, so it is like the first bit of X-Men exclusive lore that the MCU has ever used, especially since the acquisition of Fox and the refolding in. So is the door like, are they knocking on the door? You know, like,
right.
Can Magneto pop up? And although I would fully love it if the MCU was like, well, obviously it's much more interesting if Magneto is her father, so we're definitely going to do that. And then Marvel Comics is like, 8 years ago, we bent over backwards to undo the Magneto thing, which itself was an undoing of their original origin. And then they'll just undo the undoing of the undoing.
Right.
I love it.
Well, you know, we're all in multiverses and anything's possible. I want to thank everybody for popping by in the chat. And Darren Carr's suggestion of a WandaVision sitcom holiday episode. Oh my God, from your keyboard to the head of Marvel's. Yeah.
It would be too much. I mean, there is a Halloween episode.
That's true. We've seen that there's hints of that.
Yeah,
so
they're in their comic book costumes, but Halloween versions.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this lovely chat. Brett, you have some incredible, like, your recaps of this show are the first thing that I read after I watch.
Thank you.
Where should people go to read more of your stuff and see what you're doing?
You can go to Decider.com, which is where I'm a senior reporter producer there. So I'm WandaVision and Drag Race UK are my beat. So I am overworked.
There's a lot happening.
Too much happening.
Yeah.
So you can read all my WandaVision stuff. I do recaps every week, and then I also do the the breakout like continuity explanatory things like who are the twins, what is Sword, that kind of stuff.
Those are invaluable. Those explainers.
Yeah, and thank you. And so you can, and if you want to hear me talk more about classic sitcoms, you can find my podcast Must Have Seen TV, which is a little on hiatus right now, but I have like 100 episodes, so you can just go pick up. I talked to John Aston for episode 100.
Oh my goodness,
so that's a big deal to me.
Yes, Gomez,
Addams Family, Gomez, like one of the sexiest TV character of all time.
Multiple characters on Murder, She Wrote.
Yes, I always have on hand. I always have.
You've just got like so many artifacts. I love that it's like we're in the archives with you here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go listen to that. There he is.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Perfect.
Anyway, so yeah, Must Have Seen TV, and then Twitter and Instagram at Brett White, where I post outfit pics and my articles and.
Perfect.
My screaming into the abyss.
And you very generously appeared on Sewers of Paris, my show where we talked about classic sitcoms at even greater length. That's episode 309 of Sewers of Paris. And everyone, of course, you can catch me over on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, streaming over there, 2 p.m. Pacific. And I do more streams every Saturday here on YouTube, usually every other Saturday. I'm doing another one next week. Next Saturday, we're doing another archive dive where I go browsing through old newspaper archives for weird old...
That fascinates me.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Because I'm doing that for my Hayden Rourke research, and just like, it is... What? It's wild.
It's a blast. I love
It's also because like my job now is I'm a reporter producer for like the internet and stuff, and so like going back and reading like set visits and like publicity things and stuff from the writers back then, it's like, oh, this is what my job would have been 50 years ago. They would have flown me to Mexico to talk to the cast of Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah.
and then I would have been angry that the entire Jeannie cast was over it, except for Hayden because he's a gentleman. Anyway, that's super fast. Wait, I mean, I don't want to just keep talking, but I'm also like, what kind of stuff do you find?
Oh my God.
I haven't been able to watch.
I got to say, like, my favorite find, it's the stupidest thing, is I can't remember what we were looking for. I think it was something about, like, early prides in the 1960s, like, not even then, early 70s, first, like, gay Liberation Day marches. I found an ad off to the side, and thank you very much for the subscribe. Someone just subscribed over on Twitch. Andy, thank you for the follow over there. So I found an ad for this weird restaurant in Manhattan. I can't remember the name. That was... We decided in the chat it was a mistress restaurant where, like, businessmen would bring their mistresses so they wouldn't get caught. But, like, the craziest menu, the thing that stood out to me was their selection of alcoholic soups. So, yes. Just bizarre. It was, like tomato soup with vodka or like.
Okay, I was like, are you like putting like beef in bourbon? Like, what is that?
Oh, it was that level of stuff. Yes, it was just like bonkers, weird 70s cooking. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm experieing all this. I love newspapers.com. The newspapers are so great.
It's a wild ride.
Shout out.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much for everybody for joining us. Join me for more live streams over here. Join me on Twitch. Go over to Decider and check out Brett stuff. Follow Brett on Twitter. There's links in the description to all of that stuff. And thanks again to everybody for joining, and thanks to Brett for this scintillating conversation. What a great time. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you all again very soon. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.